Hey everyone, it's your favorite narrator and voice actor from Ohio, Brian Von VA. Tonight we have something very special in store for you D&D lovers, a tale simply known as Hunters in the Shadows, sponsored by Craig's Cottage. Before we get started, we just wanted to give a big shout out to Craig's Cottage on Etsy. Craig is the Santa Claus of the D&D world, giving you new stockings to hold your dice as you travel from world to world, all hand crocheted with beautiful acrylic yarn. Sturdy enough to hold up to a pound of weight, these bags can be customized to whatever color he has on hand, so never be afraid to ask. But say you already have a bag and you want some dice too. Well, Craig's got you covered with a new lineup of dice. May I suggest snagging a set of translucent rainbow dice? Or maybe dipping in and getting yourself a mushroom dice bag or an aberrant horror dice bag too. With code RIPDADDY, you'll snag your swag at a sweet 20% off, getting it fast, reliably, and safely in no time. Back to the story. The great door slowly swings open with the whisper of dust being swept along. Despite appearing flush with the carved stone floor, the door does not grind, a true testament to the fine masons of this long-gone dwarven society. Horf, a tall Goliath in steel plate armor, stands in the doorway, the black markings on his face enhanced by the shadows cast across it by Shadow. Shadow, a rather intelligent and proud bloodhawk, glides from Horf's shoulder, her talons lit by magic to reveal the chamber beyond. It is a massive space extending forward and down beyond sight. The doorway leads onto the landing of a wide spiral staircase that descends into the gloom. It is wrapped around a finely worked column of speckled marble, a dozen feet wide and at least 90 feet tall. Joya peers past Horf to glance down after their avian companion. Unable to help herself, she lightly kicks a stone off the edge to see how long it takes to reach the bottom. Horf, rolling his eyes, cautiously descends the staircase, shield and warhammer raised. This only makes Joya grin wider, making the half-elven points of her ears stick straight out from her head. She follows Horf, and so do the rest of their company. Bo comes after Joya, keeping close to her friend's shadow. Bo, humming softly, thinks to herself. Bo's friend Joya casts Shadow from Bo's friend Shadow, and Bo moves sneaky and becomes Shadow too. Bo, Shadow, Shadow, Shadow. What a tongue twister. After Bo comes Bullseye, grunting in annoyance at the lack of visibility in the chamber. As a marksman, being this exposed and unable to even see the ground or ceiling of the cavern puts him on edge. He stows his pistol, choosing to draw his scatter shotgun instead, as he too tries to keep to the shadows. Guarding their rears is Laika. Laika takes in everything she can. Her eyes constantly dart around. She takes in the fine carvings worked into the side of the central column, perfectly consistent bevels and the detailing that would impress even the finest masons of her current day and age. Laika tests the air with her curse-enhanced smell, parsing the pieces of the environment and what lay ahead. Obviously, she smells stone and dust, permeating everything. Under the expelled smells are stale water, slime, and mold, all rank and foul. Permeating those smells is the tang of decay, sickly sweet and terrible. Laika hefts her glaive into the crook of her arm as she takes careful notes and ponders her findings, while easily keeping close to the group. Small stone structures stand in shambles to either side of the street, draped in shadows, their purposes long forgotten. The smells Laika picked up at the top of the stairs are apparent to the entire company by this point. And added to it is the scent of fresh death and iron, as the group comes upon a trail of deep gnome corpses leading a bloody trail to the crypt of a long-gone hero. The literal fiends who had passed through here had gathered innocents on their way from the mountains in the east, just to serve them as a sacrifice to desecrate this necropolis to their long-dead enemy. With each small body passed, the veins in Bullseye's neck became more pronounced. Both of his hands linger on his pistols, holstered on either hip, itching to find someone to unleash justice upon. Laika quickly inspects the first few bodies, but it soon becomes apparent what had occurred. The war party of demons had arrived 2 to 3 days prior. They marched straight down here, had a massacre, and likely went straight back out. Bo had scouted between the ruins and found no trace of sacrifice or disturbance deviating from this one single path. The one question Laika still has is why? But this question likely will not be answered until they walk this road to the end. They will find an answer at the crypt. Horf roars as he brings his warhammer down on the ghast, and his warhammer roars in turn as the blunt surface lights up with radiant sparks and explodes the undead form to ash. He hears Joya behind him playing a familiar tune on her lute and covers his ears. She ends the riff with an amplified snap of the string that makes Horf's eyes water and two other ghasts' heads pop. Bullseye is already reloading his pistols as silence falls on the group of adventurers. Bo meekly walks to everyone, casting spells of healing where needed, and Laika is distractedly taking notes on the crypt they stand in. Before them is a wide and short staircase of the same granite that makes up the column and spiral staircase they had entered the cavern on. On the dais at the top of the stairs is a massive sarcophagus worked in dozens of media, from gold to sandstone to cold iron to ruby, glimmering in the light still shining from Shadow's talons. Beside the casket, sitting upon an ornate stand, is a brutal, square-edged maul of gold and platinum, with a thick ruby set in the middle of the head and at the other end of the handle. And surrounding the entire display are abyssal runes, flickering faintly with dire red light. Everyone stands around kicking rocks as Laika inspects the runes and the magics flowing through the area. She, despite not utilizing conventional magic, is the only one amongst the team who is versed in its study in any way. She also knows abyssal rather well, and so is able to suss out the purpose of the runes. They are abjurative runes, slowly sapping the holy protections from this sacred tomb and replacing them with corrupting hexes of pain and decay. The foul energies are focusing on the sarcophagus and the heroic weapon next to it. Presumably, those are the linchpins to the sanctifying power of this place, and once they are corrupted, the spell will be complete. As Laika informs her companions, one of the runes flares brightly, a malevolent eye that seems to stare at everyone at once. The cavern rumbles, and Laika deduces that the hexes have almost run their course. Bo searches for traps that the fiends may have laid about the staircase, so that they can remove the relic or disrupt the fell spell before completion. But soon, another rune flares, and immediately a rent opens in the ground behind and to the left of the tomb's raised platform. The rolling, thundering spasm of the earth being torn asunder shakes everyone to their core, causing blood to trickle down noses and ears. Spitting red to the side, Horf appraises the situation and knows that the situation is going sideways fast. Taking command of the team, he lays out his plan and snaps orders to everyone within seconds, allowing no time for discussion before he turns toward the stairs to ascend to the hero's side. Shadow circles above the sarcophagus to provide Horf lighting, and Bullseye lights a torch and leads the way back to the stairs. Before Horf makes his way up the stairs, Joya darts behind him with a song on her lips and a leather strap in hand, whipping him hard on the ass as she finishes her incantation of mobility. Turning to look at her with clenched teeth, refusing to shout from the surprise, Horf's deep voice grates out.
Is the leather strap actually necessary for that spell?
Yes, it is, Joya replies cheerfully, as though the cavern isn't tearing itself a new one in that moment. Well, the strap is a component for the spell. Whipping you with it isn't, but I enjoy teasing you. With that, she dashes after the rest of the group, shouting, "Good luck!" behind her before she turns the corner. Horf counts to 20 in his head before briskly climbing the stairs, heedless of potential traps. Lucky for him, no traps spring up as Horf approaches the memorial. Necrotic energies dance around him, wicking increments of energy and vitality from him as another rune flares. Glancing upon the details of the sarcophagus, Horf sees that it must weigh 3 tons at least. Each side of it is divided into panels and crafted to show various triumphs of the entombed hero. A coiled serpent of obsidian fills one such panel, falling from a mountaintop as a strong dwarven figure wreathed in a gold lace halo stands triumphant above. A similar lace of gold encircles the ruby set in the head of the mall to Horf's left. Horf now sees the void opening behind the platform. Already there writhes in the inky blackness a malevolent force. The deep shadows churn and grasp toward the edges of the pit. The being within hungers and hates and is already summoned. Chills run down Horf's spine. There will be no stopping this force from manifesting now. Horf can only stop it from reaching its full potential. The crypt around Horf quakes violently, breaking him from his momentary reverie. Horf focuses his mind deep within his psyche. Everything around him clears from his mind as he seizes upon the fury within his soul, the anger, determination, and desire forged in the fires of a tribal upbringing in Horf's mind, and he manifests an enchantment of speed upon himself. His movements are now rapid and sudden, almost instantaneous. Slithering tendrils suddenly whip out from the abominable dark entity, but the ones that Horf does not dodge cannot find purchase, due to Joya's enchantment. Shifting quickly, Horf closes his hand on the haft of the glorious hammer, and quick as a whip, he sprints back to the spiral staircase. Bullseye pants as he climbs the stairs 3 at a time. Laika strides closely, but not too closely, behind him with his torch. Joya and Bo are lagging behind, 20 steps below Laika, who stops with Bullseye to try and spot Horf and Shadow amidst the ruin-strewn streets. The lit pair turn a corner into view as a stalactite crashes into the building beside them, scattering a cloud of dust over them. Bullseye gasps at the night-black whips dodging Horf as he sprints at supernatural speed. The gunman finishes affixing a wick to his powder keg, close enough to Laika to see by the torchlight, but far enough to not risk an untimely demise. Bullseye thanks the gods for his stroke of foresight. Whatever those tendrils are, Bullseye aims to bury it under this mountain. Horf leaps over a toppled column in his path as the horror pursuing him hurls stones and debris past him. Hoping to gain a lead, Horf charges through a heavily cracked wall of a large building, dodges into a side chamber, and crashes through the glass of a tall window before sprinting to the foot of the stairs. Sweat beating on his face, Horf clears the stairs 4 at a time, his plate armor screaming at the range of mobility he is forcing it through, buckles busting and rivets ripping. Shadows circle above, giving a loud screech, exhorting Horf to move faster. A roar rises from below as the wave of shadows crashes against the column, tearing at the staircase as it stretches up at the fleeing adventurers. The shaking of the column makes Joya and Bo swerve dangerously close to the edge, knees buckling as they make the last few steps onto the landing at the top. Bullseye has already bored 2 holes into the granite to maximize the effectiveness of his powder bombs, and is placing them now, bemoaning the loss of all his spare gunpowder despite the necessity. Suddenly, the column shakes violently again, this time dropping Laika hard onto her ass and causing Joya to tumble down the stairs with a shriek. Her cries stop with a sharp crack as her head meets the granite, knocking her silly and unable to stop herself from rolling off the edge. Horf, soaked in sweat and swearing profusely, hears the scream above him. Still preternaturally fast from his spell, Horf snatches out and catches Joya by the ankle, his massive form barely moving from her momentum. Horf puts in a last burst of speed to get to the top of the stairs, with Joya under one arm and the maul dragging behind him from his other hand. The column roars as a crack splits down the middle of it. Massive granite slabs break free to crash down on the surging waves of darkness below. Arm-thick tendrils whip up to shatter the steps under Horf's feet, but he charges up the last stretch of stairs. Bullseye lights the fuses to the bombs, and everyone leaps through the entrance to this now cursed place, and they shut the stone door behind them. The shadowy being roars and slams against the column and door, and dust cascades from cracks opening in the ceiling. The party is already around the corner and making their way back to the main underdark thoroughfare that they had been following before finding these ruins. The stone surroundings, the very air itself in this vast tunnel, vibrate as the charges explode, bringing everyone, including Horf, painfully to their knees. Roars echo deafeningly around the cave as everything starts to break apart around them. Horf starts belting a marching beat and pulls everyone to their feet. Joya joins in, weaving magic into the words to grant everyone a boost to their fortitude. They struggle onward, the violent movements of the world around them throwing them against walls and onto their asses multiple times. Eventually, they reach the break point, where the tunnel complex they are in is slowly beginning to collapse below the safe tunnel they are heading for. Horf, in the lead despite the mad dash he had made up the stairs, grabs Joya and Bo in each hand and puts his entire body into flinging them up onto the safe section. Turning to squat and cup his hands, Horf boosts Bullseye and Laika almost too forcefully up into the tunnel, hurls them all up after them, and leaps to climb up. The exhaustion suddenly hits Horf as he scrabbles to find purchase on the stone with his gauntlets. His armor grinds and squeals as he slides down, his face flush and furrowed. He gathers the last of his strength and leaps again, managing to catch his fingers on the groove in the stone. Everyone grabs onto Horf's armor to heave him up. Blood streaks from their fingers as the roughened plates bite deep into them, and parts of the armor begin bending and breaking off. Laika, thinking quickly, jams the haft of her glaive under Horf's armpit and throws all of her weight down onto it to lever Horf up. The sudden boost elicits a grunt, but gets Horf over the edge. He rolls onto the safe stone floor as the collapsing section of tunnel accelerates down. The group drags Horf further down the tunnel until they are certain they are safe from any further collapses. They all fall onto the ground in a pile, holding their sides and gasping loudly for air. 10 minutes pass before Joya musters the energy to dig through her bag for the components needed for her shelter spell. Muttering incantations mixed with curses as she writes, erases, and rewrites the required runes, Joya manages to complete the spell. A shimmering opalescent dome appears around them, manifesting from the ground and rising up to close above their heads. The dome wiggles like a soap bubble that's been blown on before freezing in place and turning opaque. Safe in their protective bubble, Shadow's hunters, the up-and-coming adventuring team, pass out after a half-eaten meal, smiles on their faces, happy to just be alive. Brian Von VA here, checking in after this epic tale of the hunters in the shadows. If you like today's story, then please leave a like on the video, share it with your friends, and make sure to subscribe, ringing that bell to be notified when we post a new one. If you'd like to share your epic tale with us, check out our subreddit in the description below. Be sure to also check out our sponsor and, oddly enough, writer for today's story, Craig's Cottage. This guy is one of the most genuine D&D nerds you're going to meet, and I can personally vouch for the quality and craftsmanship of his products. If you want dice bags, he's got you covered. Code RIPDADDY for 20% off all of your purchases. Using a help action, you can always come say hi to me on my channel, Brian Von VA, where I voice your D&D characters, do voice acting challenges, and stream games a ton. All the love to everyone here, and may you be inspired by this story to weave tales of your own, for glory, for downfall, for all to hear. Let your imagination run free, and never let a single soul put that down, because you are who you are, and I am damn proud of each of you for it. Stay safe, we'll see you soon, bye for now.